Hello, friends. My name is Miss Lynn. I'm here at Neva Lemison Library for school age stories today. And I know that some of you are getting ready to go back to school. And some of you may have even started this week on Monday, so I might be missing you today. I do believe that we will be going back to our school age stories time next month in the afternoons at 3:30 after school. And I hope that over the course of the next few weeks that we'll be able to look at some things for parents that might be homeschooling, as well as those kiddos that are getting home from school and just want to relax with a book. Today I know that Miss Kay talked with you with stories about bugs and did some fun songs and that kind of thing. And this afternoon we are talking about my favorite bug, which is this little guy, the bee. And I love bees because they help keep flowers, and you know how much I love flowers. They keep our flowers, they keep our vegetables, all of those things healthy and pollinated. Can you say pollinated? These guys are pollinators, just like the butterflies. You got a craft to make this week for a butterfly, and I hope you have fun with that. It's really, really cute. But as I said, we're going to be reading about bees. Now, I want you to know about this guy right here. He's wearing a costume that I love, and actually, we know how much bears love honey, and some of the story that we're reading today is about honey. And there is my little friend the bear. He's hiding in his beehive, looking like he wants some honey. Do you think a bee would be excited to come up and see his hive? I don't know about that. But anyway, he's trying in his costume to look like a beehive, because he loves that honey. The story that we have first of all today is one called Buzz Said the Bee. And I have a couple copies of it, and one of the reasons I love this book, it is called a Hello Reader. It's for level 1 readers. It's got patterns for reading with young readers, kindergarten and first grade readers. And I think they will really enjoy the pattern of reading as well as the rhyming words that come across in our book. So, here we go. Buzz said the bee. Buzz said the bee. Once there was a bee who sat on a duck. Once there was a bee who sat on a duck. Quack, said the duck. There's a bee on me. And the duck said scat. But the bee just sat. So the duck quacked again and sat on a hen. Cluck, said the hen, there's a duck on me. And the hen said scat, but the duck just sat. So the hen danced a jig and sat on a pig. Oink, said the pig, there's a hen on me. And the pig said, scat, but the hen just sat. So the pig took a bow and sat on a cow. Moo, said the cow, there's a pig on me. And the cow said, scat, but the pig just sat. The cow began to weep and sat on a sheep who was fast asleep. So the cow said, moo. And the pig said, oink. And the hen said, cluck. And the duck said, what'd you say? Quack. Then the bees said, buzz. And that's all there was. So, for our new readers about bees, there's this little fiction book. And if you are interested more in bees, this little nonfiction book will give you just a few facts about bees and that big word pollination so that you can learn the job that bees do for us. Now, the next thing that we are going to do today is something to do with what is called a story map. Now, a story map is something that moves with our story, and it gives us a change in the scenery and a change in the characters of our story. And it follows kind of like a route during a map. So that is why it is called a story map. So it's going to look at the different characters and the different locations in a picture book. Or you can do it also as you get into your chapter books and you're reading a little bit later and a little bit older. But this book right here is by one of my very favorite authors. And her name is Patricia Polacco. So, here we go. It's called The Bee Tree. Now, Patricia Polacco is special in the fact that she does all of her illustrations and the stories. This is a drawing of what she looked like as a little girl. There she is, right there. I'm so tired of reading, Grandpa, she said. I'd rather be outdoors, running and playing. So you don't feel like reading, huh? Do you feel like running, huh? Then I expect this is just the right time to find a bee tree. A bee tree? What's a bee tree? She asked. Well, it's where the bees make their home. It's where they make the honey, and it's where they keep the honey, he said. and it is the sweetest honey in all the land. But, Grandpa, we already have honey, she said. Not this honey, said Grandpa, and he winked. She and her grandpa put on their coats and they went outdoors. They walked down past the bushes to the garden and found bees. They were gathering pollen from the flowers. Grandpa took a jar and gathered bees into the jar. He took them carefully and made sure not to hurt the bees as he put them in the jar. When he was sure he had enough bees, he smiled and leaned close to Patricia. They'll take the pollen back to the hive. They'll make it into delicious honey. Do you like honey? I like honey. Well, they loosened the lid of the jar and let one single bee fly out. It stayed on the edge of the jar and flew away. And Grandpa said, "Quick, run!" And they started to chase that bee. Now we're going to move a little toward our story map here so that we can follow along. The first people they met were Ms. Godluck, and she was pushing her baby in the carriage. She said, "What are you doing?" And they said, "A bee. We're following a bee to the bee tree." They came past the cornfield and they crossed over and saw Mr. Toondolf on his squeaky old bicycle. "What are you doing?" he said. And they said, "A bee tree." And he joined in the chase. Well, they were chasing along and they came to the pond. They saw Petra, Dorma, and Olaf right here by the pond. And of course they said, "Where are you going?" And they answered, "A bee tree." And, "Oh, we want to come fast. You'll have to run." "We don't care. Let's go." Well, at that point, we were hearing slap, bump, bonk from the baby carriage and the old squeaky bicycle. And they all sped down the road after that bee. Next to come along was a neighbor with car trouble. She looked up and said, "What are you doing?" And they answered, "We are going after a bee." And she answered, "Eureka! What an adventure!" And continued with the group. Look at them all. Baby carriage, bicycle, flat tire, and off they go, chasing that little tiny bee. next group, they met right here in our story map. Grandpa had to let out another bee as that one went out of sight, and the chase was on. The group galloped over the ridge and got right into the middle of Mr. Longdrop's herd of goats. Well, the goats bleated and bucked, and the people ran through them, and he said, "You're scaring me, goats," but joined in when he heard they were going after a bee tree. Well, the next group was some traveling musicians. "Why are they all running?" said one of the men. And Grandpa said, "We are following after that tiny dot of a bee." And they all joined in to follow. And at this point, you can hear slap, slap, bump, the wheels of the squeaky old bicycle, tweedle, tweedle, squeak. They all went by. You could hear the goat hoofs beating on the street. The musicians were playing, and they all followed that bee. As they ran down the hollow, the bee took blinding speed and disappeared into the woods. Grandpa handed the jar with the last bee in it, and the bee went flying into Dunk's woods. "It's the bee tree," Grandpa whispered. "That's where the honey will be, but we will need plenty of smoke. Here's our bee tree. Here is all of our group of characters." So they started a small fire with bark and damp leaves to smoke the bees out of their bee tree. And Grandpa climbed up and pulled out small bits of honeycomb. Grandpa invited everyone back to the house for biscuits, fresh brewed tea, and of course, honey. There was music from the traveling musicians. There were tall tales. There was laughter, and they all buzzed about the sweet adventure of their day. Grandpa took Mary Ellen away from the crowd. "Now, child, I am going to show you what my father showed me and what his father showed him before me," he said quietly. He spooned some of the honey out onto a book. Whoops. I'm not doing that to my library book. But he said, "Taste," in a whisper, and she tasted the honey. "There is such sweetness inside of that book," he said thoughtfully. "Such things like adventure and knowledge and wisdom. These things don't come easily. So you must chase them just like you chase the bee. You chase knowledge through the pages of a book. And then Grandpa smiled and hugged her. Sweet young lady. Well, from that day on, she never complained about reading. She found it to be every bit as exciting as a wild chase through the countryside and as sweet as the honey from a bee. And that is the end of The Bee Tree by Patricia Polacco. Now, if you want an adventure and you're not quite brave enough, I don't think I would be either, to go trying to capture bees in a jar, did you know there's another insect you can look for? And this book will tell you a little bit about it. When lightning comes in a jar. And it is also by my dear, sweet favorite author, Patricia Polacco. So lots of books about insects are going to give you a little bit of factual information in their story, just like this one did. We know that you can get honey from bee trees. We know that you would have to use smoke. That helps calm those bees down so that you are able to get some honey. But you can also learn more about beekeeping, and you just might want to go out and find some fresh honey and taste it on your biscuit. I hope you enjoyed our story, and I hope you understand a little bit about how a story map takes you through the order or the sequence of a story. And I am excited to let you know that we have another friend coming to visit with us today.
Hello!
And I want to introduce you to Miss Victoria, and she is the wonderful creator of so many of our safety masks.
Yep.
So she's got a message for you now, and I hope that you will come by the library soon and see us to check out books and come and get a mask.
Yes. So what I have been doing in my spare time, because I'm a crafter and I just like always having something to do, is I made face masks for children. All of the ones I made will fit a child from age 7 to 12. You have a little bit of excess, and this elastic that I use is a little gentle too, so it won't hurt little ears. If you want one, our social media person actually posted a link to a sign-up sheet in our comments, so just take a look at that sheet, fill it out. They're machine washable for all you moms, and you can hang them up to dry. If you have any questions, let us know. But we have a fair amount still available, so if you or you know someone who needs one, fill out that sheet below. Feel free to ask us, and we'll get you a little face mask for your kid, for either if they're going to school or you just want to have one for them when they go to the grocery store. Thank you so much for letting me take some of the time for story time. I hope you all are doing well.